The restaurant looked larger than it ever had, swollen with voices and light. Someone had strung old photographs along the brick wall, a black and white shots of my grandparents in aprons, my father when his hair was thick, my mother smiling beside a cash register that no longer existed, 50 years reduced to frames and captions. I stood near the service door, the place I always drifted to during big events. Close enough to hear, far enough not to be pulled into toasts. The staff moved with practiced grace. The kitchen hummed behind me like a familiar pulse. This was the only room in the world that ever felt permanent. People kept congratulating my brother. They shook his hand, slapped his back, told him how proud they were that the business would stay in good hands. He wore a tailored jacket and a confidence that had arrived long after the restaurant stopped struggling. No one congratulated me. That wasn't new. When I was 22, I'd put my name on a loan so the place could survive a fire inspection shutdown. When my father's hands began to shake, I took over payroll quietly, at night, so customers wouldn't see the fear in his eyes. I never corrected anyone when they called me help. I told myself it didn't matter. Work mattered. Continuity mattered. That night, though, something was off. My brother had been drinking with a purpose. Each speech edged closer to a declaration. My parents hovered beside him, smiling too tightly, as if rehearsing for a moment they'd already decided would happen. It happened between courses. A guest clinked a glass. My brother stepped forward, arm around my father's shoulders. He laughed, loud enough to gather the room. "There's something I need to say," he announced. "Tonight's not just about the past. It's about the future." I felt it then, a tightening behind my ribs. The kitchen door swung shut behind me with a soft thud. He turned, eyes finding mine across the room. The smile dropped. "Let's be honest," he said. "This place needs a real owner now, someone who can lead it forward, and that's me." A murmur rippled through the guests. Before I could step back, before I could decide whether silence was still the right posture, he crossed the distance between us. The slap wasn't hard. It was deliberate. A punctuation mark. "You've just been in the way," he shouted. And in front of everyone, only I deserved to be the owner. The room froze. Glasses hovered midair. My mother spoke first. "Your brother's right," she said, voice thin but unwavering. My father nodded. Once, as if approving a menu change. Something settled in me then. Not anger, not even sadness. Recognition. I touched my cheek, more out of habit than pain, and smiled. Not wide. "Just enough. Are you sure you want to say that?" I asked, calmly, in front of them. A few people laughed nervously, thinking it was banter. My brother scoffed and turned away, already basking in imagined applause. 2 minutes passed. They were the longest 2 minutes of my life, not because anything happened, but because nothing did. The band waited. Servers stood still. Conversations tried and failed to restart. Everyone sensed a wrongness they couldn't name. Then a man near the back stood up. He was older, dressed plainly, a linen jacket folded over his arm. He hadn't eaten much. I'd noticed that earlier, the way he'd watched the room rather than the plates. I'd invited him myself weeks ago, quietly, with a single email and copies of documents attached. "I apologize for interrupting," he said, voice carrying without effort. "My name is Judge Malik Rahman." The word judgy landed like a dropped tray. "I was asked to attend tonight as a personal guest," he continued. "But given what was just stated publicly, I believe clarity is required." My brother laughed once, sharp and uncertain. "This is a family matter." Judge Rahman nodded. "It was, until ownership was challenged in public." He turned slightly, addressing the room. "Not my family. 5 years ago, a controlling interest in this establishment was transferred as part of a debt restructuring agreement. Filed, notarized, and recognized by the court." My mother's hand went to her mouth. "The individual who assumed financial liability," he said, "and therefore legal ownership, is standing by the service door." Every head turned. I didn't move. "There are documents," the judge went on, "including a standing trust and an operating agreement, that confirm this. I have reviewed them personally in a professional capacity at the owner's request." The word "aller" ownered oddly hollow and heavy at the same time. My brother stared at me as if seeing a stranger. My father's face drained of color, not with shock, but with understanding. He had known. He had chosen silence because it was easier than correction. "I'm not here to pass judgment tonight," Judge Rahman said gently. "Only to state facts. What you do with them is your choice." He sat down. No one clapped. No one spoke. The power in the room shifted without noise, like a table finally set level after years of wobbling. Guests began to piece together a story they hadn't known they were missing. Some looked embarrassed. Some relieved. A few smiled at me with something like respect. My brother opened his mouth, then closed it. There was nothing left that wouldn't make it worse. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. The band eventually resumed, too loudly at first. Servers moved again. The party continued, but altered, like a photograph that's been retouched just enough to unsettle the eye. My parents didn't approach me. Not then. Not later. They stayed close to my brother, as if proximity could restore what had slipped away. Near the end of the night, I walked through the kitchen. I checked the prep lists for the morning, adjusted an order that had been miscounted. Habit, responsibility. The work didn't change just because the truth had surfaced. As I locked up, I felt no triumph, only a quiet, steady weight lifting from my chest. Dignity, I realized, doesn't announce itself. It simply returns to where it was always meant to be. The restaurant would open the next morning, as it always had. Some relationships would not. Both facts could exist at once.